It was 9:30 p.m. I had just finished a 10-hour day of writing a YouTube script. I was ready to wrap this up. I had finished eating. I wanted to go to bed as soon as possible. And so I started setting up this whole video setup. As I was doing it, and I was screwing in this microphone into a microphone stand, I tested the microphone as I usually do. I go test, test, and it sounded all muffly and messed up. I tried unplugging it. I tried restarting the computer. Nothing worked. And I was starting to get really flustered and pissed. After a 10-hour workday, it's very difficult to control your emotions in that moment. And while I was sitting there at the computer, clicking different buttons, restarting programs, I said, wait a second. How great of an opportunity is this to test one of the things I teach all the time or talk about all the time in regards to emotional regulation? So that's what I did. I sat there and I simply observed what my mind was telling me and what my body was producing through those thoughts. I sat there. My thoughts are saying, get pissed off. They're saying, this stupid fucking program. Why the fuck isn't the microphone working? This thing always works, and then the day that I work 10 hours, it's deciding not to work. That's amazing. How long is this going to take? All these thoughts that were a production of a day that was very busy. Any other day, I might not have had those same thoughts. I wasn't the one producing them. I was simply the observer of them. And observing the thoughts, no longer attaching myself to the thoughts, is exactly the type of exercise that I wanted to talk about today. This is the best example I can give you. Through those thoughts as well, I noticed what was going on in my body at that moment. I had sweaty palms. My face felt hot. Like, you know when you feel flushed and your entire body heats up and your heartbeat starts racing when you're angry? Well, I started to notice those things. And I noticed the physical sensations going on that almost beckoned me to continue getting more angry and getting that to snowball. A lot of people say you need some sort of outlet for your emotions, and I think that's true to an extent. If you're angry, sometimes it feels good to let it out, but I would argue that what's more powerful if you can do it, and that's why I want to tell you about it and try to teach you it, is simply observing what is going on in that moment when you are feeling an emotion you don't want to feel. So I sat there and I didn't react to my reactions. It was a much more proactive process because I decided what's going on in my body is not me. It's not something I want to happen. It is a natural response to certain conditions that played out. And I'm just going to sit here and think about how funny it is that I have no control over my anger right now. I have no control over my thoughts either. I would like the negative thoughts to stop. But if you've ever tried having negative thoughts stop, if you've tried to slow down your mind's thoughts, like flip a switch, it's just not possible. They're going to keep coming. In fact, the more you try to resist your negative thoughts, the more they usually come, I find. So instead of all that, instead of allowing myself to get more angry or releasing those emotions in some way, I just sat with the emotions. And I was still angry. That wouldn't go away for a little while. But I simply went about fixing the microphone without letting the emotions escalate. And through that process, through observing my thoughts, not attaching to those thoughts, and through observing my bodily emotions and physiology and all these sensations going on and putting a name to each part and not identifying with any one part, but saying, in this moment, a part of me is angry, the anger eventually dissipated. And it dissipated in a much smaller time frame than if I were to have continued being angry about something I can't control. Because that's another thing, right? Like, I couldn't control my anger in that moment. I couldn't control whether the microphone was going to start working or not. At least to a certain extent. I could do everything I could, but it's up to the microphone to start working for me after a point of me fucking trying everything. So this is the exercise. This is the exercise that we could just call mindfulness. It's just mindful observation. It's the single most powerful thing I think anybody can do to stop themselves from getting into a negative spiral, from getting into an argument that they look back on and they're like, oh my God, why did I say those things, man? I was just so heated in the moment. I wish I wouldn't have done that. Save you from making a terrible decision, because when we're really emotional is when we make decisions we usually regret, not when we're in a very rational state. And it will allow you to have more energy throughout the day because you'll be more at peace. And when you're more at peace, you tend to have a more consistent flow of energy. So if I were to outline this process that I just went through, the first step you want to do is recognize the fact that you are emotional right now. Recognize the fact that you are in a state that you don't want to be in. And no longer think to yourself, I don't want to be in this state. I wish it was gone. That's the first step, to accept the fact that you are emotional and recognize it. Second step is to simply sit and observe. First, you can start off with your thoughts. What are your thoughts telling you? What are they trying to say? Sometimes they signal certain things you should be doing, and we often try to hide from our thoughts by mindless stimulation. But don't do that this time. Don't escape. Simply just sit and observe those thoughts, but do not attach yourself to any of them. Think of yourself as outside of your own body. The way I like to picture this is I have two selves, and I'm the self that is looking at my physical body from a third person point of view. So imagine you're like looking at yourself from a third person point of view and just observe the thoughts that are going on in the person you are looking at and observing. Where are those coming from? Is that really me? Well, no. And you don't have to know where they're coming from. You're not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. But they certainly have a lot of power over you if you allow them to and if you attach yourself to their meanings. But in this moment, you shouldn't. So simply just observe what's going on. Maybe write some notes about this. Note-taking could be really powerful in this current moment. And you might come up with thoughts like, why the fuck is this happening to me? I wish I could just go away into my dreams for a little while and not have to exist in this body right now. I'm so lonely. I wish that never happened to me. I wish things went differently. Just observe that. You know? That's not you. It is a part of you that is expressing itself based on the feedback it's gotten from your external reality. That's all. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to determine your life. Now, step 3, let's notice our bodies now. Notice the contact points in which our body is sitting or standing or laying down. What parts of your body are touching what? Now, what's the temperature feel like? Do you feel hot-headed? Do you feel a little cold in your feet or hands? That's where heat tends to release from our body the quickest. Do you feel some sort of sweaty sensation? Do you feel chills? Notice what's going on and how your body is reacting to whatever you just went through that you didn't want to go through. Really pay attention to that and ground yourself in your body. But again, don't attach yourself to those sensations. It wants you to get angry. Your body and your brain, it produces these sensations and thoughts because it thinks that if it keeps producing these emotions and thoughts, it will keep us safe. Every reaction we have is a reaction to a physical body that feels threatened in a certain moment. At least negative reactions. If your body feels threatened, that could be like your ego getting threatened by something someone said to you, or in my experience that I talked about, something going wrong after a day that you've been exhausted doing these things. Stuff like that, your body is going to be like, this is threatening whatever I'm trying to do, and I don't feel safe right now, so I'm going to start getting this person into a fight or flight type of mode, activating the nervous system, having it be overactive, making them shake, making them shiver, making them sweat, make their heart beat fast, whatever it is. It's going to do that because it thinks that you're unsafe, but you are safe. I'm going to assume you're safe. You most likely are. In the same way that I wasn't under threat when my microphone wasn't working. My sleep was under threat, though. So just take a mental note of every single physical sensation you can in that moment. But again, don't identify or attach to those sensations. And you're going to notice something a little odd. It's going to feel a little strange, but you're going to have this out-of-body experience where you don't feel in control of yourself, but at the same time feel totally in control and at peace. It doesn't mean that the emotions will go away immediately once you do this practice, but it does mean that your conscious self is not going to be controlled by them, and it is the observation and the noticing, it is, in a sense, an acceptance of the current state you're in. And slowly but surely, the emotions will subside and you'll realize you are not your emotions and thoughts in a certain moment, right? We say, I am angry. I am depressed. These are temporary sensations. If we say that too much and we attach ourselves to these things too much, well, then, of course, it's going to start to become more believable that you are whatever emotion throws you around in a given moment. But when you take the time to simply mindfully observe these things, you realize you are not these things. And you have way more power over how you choose to react to a certain physical and emotional state than you think. And in that moment where you are observing, that's the moment so many people don't have access to, where you can choose how you want to move forward, where you can choose how to respond to a certain stimulus that triggered you. You have the power to choose how to respond. As much as it feels like you don't because your body and your mind is overpowering you, you absolutely do. And the more that you do this practice, the more you realize you do have this sort of power. And the more you make rational, conscious decisions that you don't regret. That tiny space between what happens to you and how you choose to react determines the entire trajectory of your life. Because when you are in the driver's seat more and your conscious, positive self is making the decisions, the one that's rational, the one that has a clear understanding of where they want to go, then you start actualizing the person you're meant to become. This exact type of process is going to be outlined in some way in my novel. I'm currently in the middle of writing a novel about a 21-year-old who goes through this really tragic loss and develops the ability to see into a parallel reality. There's a lot of different themes in there, like psychology, philosophy, self-improvement type of stuff. And if you enjoy that, I think you'll like the novel. It's not going to be finished probably until the start of next year, but if you want to get updates for the progress on the novel as I'm progressing through it, you can sign up for my newsletter, which is linked in the description below. Also, if you want to talk to a group of people who really care about becoming the best versions of themselves, then you can check out my self-mastery school, where we meet in a video call every weekend and discuss biggest things we're struggling with, how we can get through them, and habits we can build to start being more fulfilled in a day-to-day routine. Link in the description to that as well. I hope you enjoyed, and peace.